in this angle?
Well, that was live, so that's exciting.
I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, maybe I should move so I'm more upright, but I'm kind of cool, so I mean, tell me, how do I?
Yeah.
Really
so we may be rugby players, but we're still a little bit worried about our appearances. That was amazing. Anyways,
I did see the live thing, and I was like, but you said it took a few seconds. Anyway.
Yeah, maybe you get to. Anyway, if you're just joining, we're talking about Jill, whether she has a double chin on screen or not. You guys can come and let us know. But anyway, welcome back to Tiny Beats. I'm Nathalie.
I'm Jill.
And today's theme is going to be, we're going to be talking a little bit about the differences between training for the U.S. team versus training for the Colombian team. So some of you guys have submitted questions ahead of time, so we appreciate that. And we'll get right into it. So one of the first questions was if we could talk about what would be the main differences between our training regimen, especially since the U.S. is based out of an Olympic training facility down in Chula Vista. So Jill, do you want to maybe start by kind of describing what you guys have access to, and what your resources are down there?
Yeah, I mean, the Olympic Training Center is a world-class facility. We have a free field taken care of in line. You know, we only have one field with posts, but we really don't need more than that. And we have an excellent gym with platforms and squat racks, and basically anything that you would want, we would probably have it. But the biggest resource, I would say, would be our recovery center, you know, having the ice and hot baths for contrast, the Normatec for, you know, swelling, things like that. We have an on-site physical therapist, chiropractor, and acupuncturist in case you need them. And awesome cafeteria with lots of food and varieties. So, you know, I mean, that's just a start, and that's only a small, you know, or a quick description of the OTC. So.
Yeah, I definitely miss the access to massage therapists. Well, we do have massage therapists, I shouldn't say that, but like acupuncture and all of the great knowledge that there is over there in the medical center. But yeah, I mean, one thing that's interesting is that when I first got here, I was like, oh, we just don't have anything. We don't have the same things. And then Les Spellman, speed coach I've been working with, came to visit and work with the team. And he's like, what are you talking about? You guys have all the same things. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's kind of true. But it's definitely different. So the way that we're based out of Medellin, which is in the department of Antioquia, and the way that Antioquia works is that a lot of the facilities are state sponsored. So there's a soccer stadium where the two teams from the city play. And then around that, there's an Olympic track. There's like an amazing weightlifting room. There are two, actually. There's like gymnastics mats, there are basketball courts, volleyball courts, like everything. And it's public access. So it's awesome because we have access to that. But then on the flip side of things, they don't let us use any of the turf fields there. We can only use the track between like really odd times because the regional like select sites for track and field are using them between 8 and 10, and then like basically all afternoon. There are two awesome weightlifting facilities, but the better one is only accessible by the track and field athletes. So we're in another one that we basically get kicked out the minute our session ends, which like it's kind of funny because we're an Olympic team and you would think that they would give us more resources. But we have that. And then we train in a turf field that's like super hard, you know, like a little bit outside of the city half the time, and the other half on the baseball field. So we don't actually have a dedicated rugby field, which is kind of funny. But we do have a medical center, so we have access to a sports doctor at all times, and then he can prescribe you to physical therapy. And we do have a good physical therapy area with a lot of awesome tools. But there's no like cold pool or hot pool. There's no chiropractors. So those things are we definitely miss here. And we do have a nutritionist, but we don't really listen to him.
Well, how would you describe your community? Do you think do you train with other Olympians, or do you become friends with anyone?
So yeah, it's a little bit different because I definitely know. So most of the Olympic athletes do train out of Medellin. So I know that they're around, but it's not like the OTC where you're having lunch with a bunch of them and you're like, get to know them. Like here I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, that person could be going to the Olympics, or that person looks like they might qualify, or some of these people I know are going to qualifiers, but it's not the same thing where you're interacting. It's not as community oriented. Even with the rugby team, like with the US, I know that there were some spots where we used to hang out. Like there's a rec center, and like people hang out together between practices and things like that. We tend to kind of spread out the moment things are over, and it's the same thing among sports. We don't interact so much with other sports. I did get invited by the track and field coach to do a session, which was really neat. But outside of that, we don't get to know a lot of the other athletes, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that's one of the perks about the Olympic Training Center for us, is that we have access to many athletes, and, get to know them and their journeys and what they've overcome or sacrificed to be there. And it's kind of this like shared passion to make the Olympics, as the community that everyone's that's training at the OTC is kind of in this one common goal. And that's, Team USA and, medaling and, achieving, the highest competition, that they can, so I think that's really special at the OTC. And we go out and we support, we go out and do the track and field and watch them. We watch the archery trials, BMX trials is this weekend, and that's pretty rad to see. So I would say that's one of the things that is incredibly special for us.
Yeah, and maybe like when you get to know those guys, like those athletes, how do you interact with them? Like, do you get to train with them? Like, I mean, I know that back in the day, like I took an ice bath with someone that ended up winning a marathon, and I was like, oh yeah, that's totally cool. But like, how else are you able to kind of tap into those resources?
Well, we've done a couple track and field sessions with Jerome, who's a guide runner, and just seeing other athletes in the weight room, and they might give you a cue or something to help you out. I was working on, a snatch, and one of the power lifters came up to me, and she's like amazing. And she's like, if you just did this one thing, that would really help you tremendously, right? And I'm thinking, yeah, this is awesome. She does this all the time. Like, come and watch me Olympic lift, because that's not my forte, So just like little things like that, like definitely go a long way. So.
See, oh man, so Colombian Olympic lifters are, I guess, really badass, and like I just wish I could walk into their training room and be like, hey, you guys want to work with me? And actually, ironically, I just found this out like maybe a month ago, but the first gold medal for Colombia in the Olympics ever was one of my cousins in Olympic lifting. I'm like, I should be able to have access to some of this stuff. And I should probably meet my cousin. But yeah, that's awesome. Oh, it was kind of like, I don't know, it was funny. I mean, I do have a really large family, so it's not that surprising I don't know who she is, but it's also a little bit weird at the same time.
Yeah.
In any case, I'm digressing, but yeah, let's talk. Let's go to the next question, which is around nutrition. So, who do we think eats more meat? Which is such an American question, by the way.
Man, I think as a team, I would say we eat quite a bit of meat. Nothing abnormal. I mean, we have a couple athletes that eat more than others, I would say, just because of their protein needs or, their kind of philosophy on nutrition. But, man, if I could put it into ounces.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. I wouldn't even know how to.
Probably a pound a day, is that per person? Does that seem? We probably consume about 20 pounds of meat as a team a day.
I mean, that sounds
reasonable, right?
Yeah.
If you had protein at every meal, if you had 4 meals,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that sounds feasible, totally.
And
I mean,
not counting protein shakes. You know, you're just talking about meat. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so who eats the most? Can you share?
Oh, well, who eats the most? I don't know, but I would say probably Ryan and Nicole eat the most meat.
Mm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can totally see that. Uh, so I think when the question was asked, probably assumed that the answer would be that the US would consume more meat. But Colombia is definitely a meat-based society. Like there is meat with every meal, with maybe exception of breakfast, where it's usually like an arepa and like some eggs or something like that. But man, they love meat here. Like you eat meat with everything. So I think in terms of quantity, just if you say how much meat, I would say it's probably comparable. But then if we talk about portions, meat here is thinner. So I think maybe in terms of just sheer size, maybe US would win. But in
Hmm.
terms of how often and how many pieces of meat you get, I think it's probably hand in hand.
Yeah, it's probably the same amount, you know?
Yeah, but weight wise, I have no idea. And I think maybe you guys would probably eat a lot more meat. Where I'm certain we beat you guys is in terms of carbs.
Yeah,
Because
you guys,
that we consume. Like,
we're out of like we eat a lot of salads.
I mean, we
Or
eat
maybe
like
that's
bean
just me and I'm
salads,
projecting onto the
rice salads. No, but seriously, like that was one of the biggest challenges the first time I came here because um, we would go and some of the girls get meals prepared for them at a hotel. And actually, there's an athlete villa they call it where they get meals now. So it's a little bit different from the last time I was here.
I like
But
that the villa.
yeah, the villa. That's where you would probably be able to hang out with some other athletes, but I don't have access to it. So
Well, not yet.
but so the first time, like I got like a nice piece of fried steak. It was awesome, which was accompanied by rice, also beans, also fried plantain, also potatoes, and like about this much salad and a potato soup that had maybe 3 peas in it. So like the ratio of carbs to protein.
I think.
Say again?
You might need to take a multivitamin if you're lacking some of the greens.
Yeah, definitely. And like a fruit juice. Fruit juices are essential here. Like with every meal, they have fruit juice. I think like that's one thing that's where it's been the hardest to kind of change the mentality because it's so ingrained in the culture to have those kind of meals just, from like generation to generation. And like the nutritionist will be like, yeah, you should probably eat more vegetables. But then it's really hard when you go to a restaurant when you're like, oh, can I have a salad? And basically coleslaw comes out. Or like maybe 3 pieces of like iceberg lettuce with like one shred of carrot. And you're like, okay, I was maybe hoping for something a little bit more substantial. But man, we get a lot of our energy from carbs, that's for sure. So I've had to cook a lot of my meals just to keep my weight down. Like I have a little kitchenette here and I cook my own protein and then I'll make a salad just to kind of balance it. But I don't know. I mean, the center was challenging too because there was a bunch of junk food all over the place too. You kind of have to be conscientious what you eat there too.
Yeah, it was Cookie Wednesday today, and I had to like, don't look at the cookies.
Cookie Wednesday. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I managed to gain weight when I was at the center, so that's something. Considering how much we ran, but I guess having froyo every day wasn't a good idea.
No. Yes, there's a froyo machine at the O2C.
Yeah, and frosted flakes. And a Coke machine.
Yeah.
But there's some good options too.
You know?
Yeah.
Not my sponsor.
But I mean, you eat really well. Do you still eat there every day, or do you cook a lot of your meals?
No, I probably eat there mostly every day. On our day off, I don't eat there. Like I'll go and make my own breakfast and lunch and stuff like that, just so I can stay away and kind of have my own balance. But generally, yeah, I mean, I eat the same thing every day. There's like nothing too special. It keeps me on track. You know, eggs and oatmeal and a salad for lunch, and and meat and protein and more vegetables. I love broccoli and kale salads, and I eat a lot of that. So every day.
I miss kale. You know what I miss the most is spinach. You can't find spinach here.
You want me to send you a can?
Yeah, a can of spinach. Can you send it fresh?
Are you allowed to? I have no idea what the rules are.
I don't know.
I feel like that might be like confiscated, but
yeah, but just say that you're sending me a T-shirt, and then like flatten it, and maybe we won't post this video on YouTube. Yeah, spinach. I miss spinach so much. But that's really it. Oh, and almonds. Almonds are hard to come by here. Sliced almonds, but
I would miss almonds too.
Yeah, and almond butter. But oh man, fruit here is off the hook. Oh my god. There's like hundreds of varieties of fruit here. There are 42 kinds of mangoes. Did you know that?
No.
In Colombia.
I've only seen
yeah. Like just here there are 42 kinds. And then there are like a dozen kinds of pineapple, and there's passion fruit all over the place. There's like a ton of fruit that you can't even find in the US. Oh man, for fruit here, it's the bomb. That we're really, 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 really lucky, spoiled. In any case, how much would you say that you guys use your access to nutritionists?
Probably once a month, I would say. We do like body comp and skin fold measurements, and just seeing if you're on track to your ideal body fat percentage or weight or something like that. So I have a meeting with her on Friday. Yay.
Oh, hey.
It keeps you accountable, and I mean, I log in all my food to my Fitness Pal or some other app, and then turn it into her, and she'll be like, so maybe you can add this or eliminate this, and things like that. Just kind of keeps you on track. So
because you're able to share your dietary diary with her directly from the app. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have goals for this meeting on Friday?
Yeah, I needed to lose about 10 more millimeters. I didn't need to lose, but I wanted to lose about 10 more millimeters. So we'll see how it goes, and luckily I've been able to track my skin fold measurements since, the dawn of time in 2012. So you can see the flux, like the ups and downs, and, especially when coming back from last year and kind of trying to get back into the one, like my average, even with Rick and when we're running a lot, or, different, under different staff and things and regiments or whatever, there's more consistency and a certain range, and I'm just a little above that. So I just want to drop down. So,
do you think skin and just generally aging plays a role in the skin folding?
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Because you need a little bit more like mental health, and so you might have more chocolate then.
yeah, that too. Yeah, just be more gentle and compassionate with yourself. Have a piece of chocolate. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
That's me this week, And then I'll be able to tell, it's like the diary confessions, your dietary confessions on Friday, So.
Yeah, maybe we can check in a week or so and just talk about how it went. I had my skin fold measurementing in yesterday. It went actually a lot better than I thought, because with the food I thought I had absolutely increased, but I maintained, which is nice because I've been abusing the chocolate a little bit this month. But yeah, okay, so next question was about basically adjusting to unpredictable conditions. So little background, our access to the weightlifting room was actually taken away last week. and somehow we were not prepared for this event, even though we knew for 6 weeks it was going to happen. So now we don't have a weight room 6 weeks before the Olympics, which is amazing. And so we've started doing kind of adjusted like body weight partner lifts, which is kind of cool because it's neat to see how creative our weight coach is to get us to do movements that are going to mimic a clean or something like that using another person. But basically the question was like, how often does that happen? And basically, how do you guys deal with obstacles and maybe like unforeseen issues like that could be on trips or just during regular training?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think sometimes we'll go on tour or travel and, you want to have a nice gym facility, but you're only able to maybe have the hotel facility. Luckily, we always bring bands and things to work out with, so you can always do a lot of band workout stuff, partner stuff where you throw the band over them and maybe do resistant runs or, banded squats or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, oh, that sounds pretty easy, but the thicker the band, the harder it is,
Yeah, for sure.
So,
you can get a good burn going.
Yeah, and then we've done some partner stuff like conditioning wise where, if we don't have the right kind of like a sled or something like that, or maybe it's being used or something, you would, pick up your partner and go run. I almost dropped the F-bomb there.
Yeah, I was like, oh, bleep.
Grappling, we grapple a lot. You can always, suffer. There's ways to suffer without any kind of weights or anything you need. So
I thought you were going to say go further than you thought you were going to go. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. No, I get that. We're kind of like finishing each other's sentences at this point. We've been friends for so long, so I totally knew where you were going with that.
What about you? What about your team? What have you done since you've missed the weight room?
Yeah, so our weight room got taken away last week, and what we've been doing is basically we use our same weight program, and we go outside on the field and find ways to do partner lifts or weighted lifts that are going to kind of mimic those movements. So it's not a perfect solution, obviously, because like, for instance, we were supposed to work on our clean pulls this week. And like trying to do a clean pull with a body is just really unstable. But the movement was pretty cool. like, the way that they were like, okay, this is how the person that's going to be on the ground is going to position themselves. Make sure that you're totally stable, and then like how a person's pulling. But it's also hard because there's a lot of people that are dealing with like injuries and things like that. And then when you add an element of instability, like it can become a little bit tricky. So one thing that I find mesmerizing about this team is that, the ability to improvise and the ability to do a little or a lot with a little, So this is a great example. Like, we don't have a weight room. Okay, whatever. They're always like, oh yeah, we're always fighting the circumstances, which I love because it's true. Like, sometimes you're not fighting like your best core, you're just fighting circumstances, and they find a way. But it's definitely challenging. You feel like you're in an Olympic program 6 weeks out. You should have a weight room. And the fact that, like I was explaining in the beginning, that we have facilities that are public and yet we don't have access to them now, it just seems weird. But I don't know. It's interesting. Like, you have to adapt. So you just do what you have to do. Like you explained, you do bend work, or maybe you might add a pull session, or you might add an extra session under a little bit more fatigue. But yeah, it's not ideal, but you make it work, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that adaptability, learning that is right before the Olympics is a good gift as well. So, I mean, even though you might be losing out on some of those movements and things like that, there's probably a lot to be done and said for the type of training that you're doing and the mental toughness around kind of that adaptability and controlling how you react to that. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. That just made me think of when we were preparing to go to World Cup and we put that list together of like all the things that could go wrong. And, I mean, there were some ridiculous things on there, but like a lot of them that we were like, okay, that's far-fetched, actually did happen.
Right?
So like,
Oh man, we need to make that list for real.
yeah,
We'll make one together. Yeah.
I know. Maybe
That way
we'll
we
do
don't
one
miss out on anything.
Oh man, that list was ridiculous, but it was so helpful.
Yeah.
Like, like stupid stuff like, oh, we don't have internet to talk to our significant others, and then we didn't have internet, and everyone was losing their mind, and you're like, oh, but I did the mental work to prepare for that. Like,
No big deal. My phone
yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah. Oh, we're in Russia and we can't contact anyone at home. That's awesome. But yeah, anyway, I think you're right. I guess the point is, like, it's better that we're learning how we adapt as a team now than it would be like arriving in Rio and then all of a sudden we're completely thrown off our game and we don't know how to adjust. So yeah, maybe this isn't
It's not so bad
as
after
bad
all.
as, yeah, maybe it isn't as bad as I thought. But we need a gym.
Yeah, you guys do.
We want a gym. But yeah, I mean, I guess we only have a couple of minutes left, but do you have like any general things in terms of like, well, I guess you haven't really played for Colombia, so you probably have no idea what the differences are. So maybe I'll do a closing remark.
Okay, that sounds like a
If
good
I
idea.
may. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's cool talking to you because there's a lot of things that I remember we had, and then a lot of things that I didn't even consider, like having access to the athletes and things like that. I think the biggest difference for me is just overall the experience and like, whether it is being around seasoned, Olympians that have gone through a cycle that know what it's like, to compete, or just even the fact that you guys are on the World Series tour and we're not, and like having the ability to go to Atlanta really helped the team realize this is how an international tournament is managed.
Yeah.
This is kind of the standard we have to rise to. But then we don't have necessarily the knowledge or the experience to kind of implement all of the visions that we have. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, from a medical standpoint, I think you guys have access to really like phenomenal staff. From a coaching standpoint, like there's a lot of experience there. And I think as the Colombian program develops, we'll start getting those things. Right now, that's one of the biggest differences that I see. Like everything else you can kind of deal with. But experience you only get by playing and by going through these phases. And I think that's probably the biggest change that I've had to go through playing in both programs. And,
For sure.
being surrounded by like you guys, like you've gone through 3 World Cups, and like sometimes, we'll talk about something and you're like, oh yeah, we can just fix it this way. And then, a lot of these girls are new to rugby or new to the international scene. So it's a much bigger learning curve. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Well, man, you're doing
Thanks for listening. It's my therapy. Like I'm just having a therapy session with you, and maybe some other people are listening.
Yeah, need some positive reinforcements. Just give me a call.
Yeah, yeah. I just needed an ear. Thank you.
I got you.
But yeah, do you have anything else to add?
Anyway, I'll stop because I was about to ramble. So anyway.
All right, cool. Well, always a pleasure. And we'll figure out when is a good time to reconnect, but we'll definitely start with how your skin fold test went.
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.